let's take this off of race and IQ for a second. This is something that would have been probably just as radioactive, and it just happened to break the other way, and sort of nobody noticed. But you probably recall, I think it was 3 years ago, I think it was, or 4 years ago, I think it was 2014, where there were reports about Neanderthal DNA. And it was learned that it's actually, I think it's David Reich, whose op-ed in the New York Times kind of kicked off our latest skirmish. I think it's based on his work. It was found that most human beings are walking around with around 2.7% Neanderthal DNA. But it was found that the only people who don't have Neanderthal DNA are Black people, right? People who directly descend with some isolation from Africa, from the rest of the human community. And so at the time, I tweeted, right, this is now 2014, I tweeted, "Attention all racists. You were right. Whites are special. We're part Neanderthal. Blacks are just human." But what if the data had broken the other way? Okay, what if the only people on Earth who were part Neanderthal were Black? Okay, what then? What would have happened to anyone who reported those data? Would that have been an example of trafficking in the most deeply harmful tropes? I mean, it was just pure good luck it broke the other way. And yet, this is the kind of thing that will keep coming at us. We know that we will discover things about populations that can appear invidious and appear politically inconvenient. And we don't know when we will discover them. We know that there is enough variation, both genetically and environmentally, that if we looked at differences among the Inuit and the Koreans and the people from Latin America, we're going to find differences. And again, these differences don't always make white people look good. The Asian IQ data is the reverse of the Black-white difference thus far, psychometrically. And no one is worried about Asian privilege, right? I mean, we got Asians suing Harvard University today because they're being excluded from Harvard. And that's the other side of this affirmative action question. And we have to figure out some way to solve this. And the political response, the basic political response, I mean, the policy response is open to good faith debate, but the basic one has to be not identity politics, but a commitment to basic fairness for all individuals, no matter what nominal group they seem to be a part of. However you define a group, you will find differences, and to treat those differences as in principle radioactive, that is just it is a bad strategy going forward. It will produce political harm, it will produce intellectual harm, and it is what explains the fact that I have people, or reputable scientists in my inbox, who have totally taken my side in this, but who are too afraid to say so publicly. And the reason why they should be afraid is proven by the fact that I'm now on the Southern Poverty Law Center website as a hate monger. Again, I would just take it back to something as superficial as the Neanderthal data, right? Had that broken the other way, and the factual claim to make is that Black people are part Neanderthal and white people aren't. It's the opposite. But had it gone the other way, you look like a racist asshole even paying attention to that. There's just no way to talk about it, given all of the associations with race and Neanderthals and all the rest. And what I'm saying is that we have to grow up. We have to treat our audiences like adults, not like dangerous children who will plunge into some toxic politics if you talk about the science in a disinterested and dispassionate way. And we have to stop sliming people with the worst motives when they find themselves in the possession of these kinds of facts, or even when they argue for social policies that you don't agree with. I am worried about the social penalty for talking about these things because, again, it will come back to us on things that we don't expect, like the Neanderthal thing, right? Like that comes out of left field. Had it gone another way, all of a sudden we can't talk about Neanderthal DNA anymore. And there's no point in having our politics be hostage to these kind of tripwire effects where you say something that seems politically invidious, merely talking about the data as they are. I mean, unless every population of human beings has exactly the same mean and the same variance for every trait we care about, we are guaranteed to be blindsided by these differences that seem important to people who care about differences among groups. The end game here is to not care about differences among groups, to treat individuals as individuals, and to realize that yes, people have different sets of gifts and competences. We can give people whatever advantages we can, and we should. We're moving into a future where we'll be able to change these things about ourselves in very intrusive ways. We'll be able to change our genes. We'll be able to change the genes of our kids. We'll be able to put technology directly into our brains. And not everyone will have access to this technology at the same time. And this will open a door to another aspect of inequality that could be hugely consequential. This is all stuff that we have to get ready for. But the way to be ready is for good and intellectually honest people to be willing to talk about the facts of biology and various things we understand about things like intelligence without losing sight of our political and ethical commitments to one another. And those commitments just have to be to make the world better and to treat everyone fairly and to treat one's political opponents fairly.